If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
In the market for new or used guns, look no further than Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun. Whether you want to buy, sell, or trade, we got you covered. While you're here, check out our large selection of jewelry. We offer gold, silver, diamond, and beautiful estate jewelry. Looking for electronics? We have almost anything you can think of. We always carry new and used guns, so come here first and shop with a local business you can trust. Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun, serving you for over 25 years. 443-1668, 2552 Sunset Avenue, Rocky Mount.
And welcome to the K-Files this morning. Hey, Lindell.
Hey, how you doing?
Nice to be with you this
Yes.
morning.
I left all my notes at home,
Oh, that's good.
so I have what we're going to do today written on the back of a receipt for Ann's Donuts. That's not a plug. That just happened to be the only piece of
Well,
paper
we
I can
have
find in my
Krispy
phone.
Kreme as our sponsor. Look,
Well,
look.
okay, Krispy
Sure are.
Kreme, great.
Okay, this morning we're gonna, in case you've never tuned in, let me just go over a little bit about what the K-Files is. K-Files is something we started, Lindell and myself, a few weeks ago, probably a couple of months ago. We have cold cases that have not been solved, and Lindell has been working cold cases, writing about cold cases for 20 years.
20 years.
So has a lot of knowledge and information, and thought we would bring those to the forefront to see if we could get some calls, tips. We have a number at the bottom of the screen, as you see, our hotline number. Please, if you, during any of these presentations about the cases, if you know anything, it is anonymous. It is
And
anonymous.
it's working. We are getting calls
Yes.
on that. Obviously, like we said from the beginning, we don't know what that information is.
Right.
Because we want law
right.
enforcement to have that information.
And we
but it is working.
did have a lady call in last week that actually wanted to know some information about
Right.
how she could call in a tip. So
Yep.
that was great. So
So,
anyway, with that being said, Lindell, what have we got today on tap?
Oh, fantastic.
And we
I've just
now
been
let's
handing my
talk about
first
the money
programming.
first
I've just
before-
been handing my first programming notes.
Before we finish,
this
how
is
much do we, 15,000, it's
Right,
up to $15,000.
Right.
Let's put that out there.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so from last week, okay, Jeff Sherrard was supposed to be here last week, Lieutenant with the Nash County Sheriff's Office.
Yes.
He was not here. I received a text message from him a few minutes before the show was to go on, saying that he was working a homicide case over in Red Oak area. And so when the show was over, I drove over there, and they were all there Jeff was in the front yard. I took some pictures of that. It's on the front page of the Enterprise this week. Anyway, they had a busy day because that Thursday they had a homicide in the morning, and then they had another one in Whitaker's that afternoon.
Right.
So they worked both of those cases. On Sunday, TQ Stokes was arrested for the murder of Jerome Lynch. That was on 301 in Whitaker's.
Correct.
Right? Okay, and then just yesterday afternoon, Herman Lee Best was arrested for the shooting death of William J. Lee, and he was charged with first-degree murder and burglary.
And the interesting thing about that, it was his cousin.
It was his cousin.
How do you do that to your cousin?
Well, we said kind of prophetically on the air last week that a lot of times these home invasions are done by somebody that you know, or somebody that's, and the general called in and said someone that's been in your house before. So
was the motive just robbery?
I don't really.
He was robbed.
I don't know. He was robbed, right? So yeah, and the thing that I wanted to touch on for a second was the burglary charge, because a lot of people don't understand the difference between larceny, burglary, robbery. They kind of lump them all together,
Yes.
But there is a distinct difference in the eyes of the law.
Explain the difference.
Okay, so larceny is just stealing something. You steal something from the grocery store.
Right.
You
You go into the
from
grocery store and you steal a pack of chewing gum.
That's larceny.
Okay.
They also have larceny from an employee. It's kind of like larceny from a person. It's kind of like pickpocketing or whatever. The idea is that you stole something.
Yes.
Not a lot of violence involved, right?
Right.
Okay. And then robbery is taking something by force or the threat of force. So that's when you take something from somebody, either you punch them in the face and grab what they got,
Right.
or you tell them, I'm going to punch you in the face and take what they got, or you use a weapon of some kind.
Exactly.
And then breaking and entering and burglary is something that a lot of people don't understand. So breaking and entering is just breaking into a house or a building or, church, whatever. Right. And then, although that's a separate charge of breaking and entering.
And they don't have to be home.
Right, they don't have to be home, exactly. I mean, so you just, and you don't have to even take anything. You just broken into somewhere you don't belong. Okay, burglary is a much worse offense because burglary means that someone was home.
Yes.
So the potential for violence is much greater. So
Yes.
you break into a house in the middle of the night and someone's home, as we saw in this case, the homeowner ends up dead through whatever altercation that happened. So
Right.
that's why burglary is always a greater offense. It usually happens at night, and most certainly it happens when someone's at home. So that that's just the. I like to try to explain some of those differences because you hear all the time when someone gets home and their TV's missing, the first thing they say is, "I was robbed." Well, no, you weren't robbed. Someone stole your stuff.
Well, he was taken into custody, I believe, with no bond.
Right.
No bond.
Yeah. So I mean that's again that's his cousin, and in the other case, in the Whitaker's case, the suspect that was arrested is good friends with the guy that was killed. So we said last week that you can't predict or prevent murder. Right, and we were talking about neighborhoods. Some folks try to live in a better neighborhood because they think that they're safer. But then I made the comment that sometimes the perpetrator's in your own family.
That's exactly right.
Couldn't be truer than that. Okay, so that's that. We were going to offer, of course, just because they've made 2 arrests don't mean there's not other steps to follow,
That's
folks.
right.
So if you know anything about either one of those 2, call that number. But they have more or less resolved those 2 in the last week.
I think so.
Okay, and then we're going to, in the third segment, we were supposed to have a picture of the guy, but that's what my programming note says. Herb Hartley is trained cadaver dog. He's got a cadaver dog named Lily.
Now, what is
really
a cadaver dog? What did they do?
They take a scent from somebody, whether it be their clothes or some item like that, and then they go out to a certain area and they try to find that person's body.
So they find bodies, not drugs.
No. There's different drugs. I mean, drug dogs find drugs.
There's another dog that does the drugs.
There's dogs that do drugs. There's dogs that do explosies.
But this one's
There's dogs
trained
that
for
do firearms.
bodies.
Right.
That's the reason we're bringing it up on the show, because we talk about murders on the show.
Right.
So this guy has.
Right. Well, Herb contacted us, and his main interest was being part of all of this and offering his services to law enforcement. You know, we're law enforcement adjacent through the cold case team, and he wanted to, you know, say, hey, look, I can, I belong to a team of people, and I've got my own dog, and if y'all ever need any help, I'll be more than happy to go out.
Wow, it's amazing how many people that have contacted us
absolutely.
through this.
We had the DNA guy that wants to help with any DNA situations that he can. So now we've got Herb. Herb is a very interesting person. I don't think the video covers it, but he also plays bluegrass music and has actually done some recordings and stuff like that. You can find him on YouTube. Yeah, he's a really interesting.
Where's he from?
He's from Middlesex.
Middlesex.
Well, he's from Sims. You ever been to Sims? You ever
What's the
heard that
difference?
Not about 5 miles.
Sims,
about 5 miles.
I think you drive into one and the other.
You're right. One's in Wilson County, one's in Nash County. That's the only difference. He's got a really nice place down there, though. He's got some chickens and rabbits, and I don't know if he's got rabbits. He's got chickens and goats and donkeys and everything else. So he's got like a little petting zoo going on.
So we have a video.
Yeah, that we'll show that in the third segment, hopefully.
Okay.
And then, like I said, I haven't said, but I will say, Lieutenant Seighman with the Rocky Mountain Police Department is here to talk about the Jeff Cobb case.
There's a lot of interest in that case. People talk about it all the time since we started the show.
Well, the general asked Captain Staten with the police department to come up with some cases that they thought would that we could help with. Because we put the information. That's all we're trying to do is put the information up. So they come up with these cases, and this is the one that they wanted to do first. I mean, we've covered it. We covered it on the show, I think, for the first month of the show, but it is a case that has a lot of depth to it. So I think hearing from them is going to be important.
I think so. We've talked about it quite a bit on the show. I know we spent 3 shows
But then again, I mean, law enforcement knows, for everything that I think I know, they know 1,000 times more things.
Well, they know the ultimate. We just are trying to bring the information out that we have.
Absolutely. So that is the show today. We're gonna talk with Lieutenant Seighman, and the second segment we're going to have this video of Mr. Hartley in the third segment.
Okay.
And we were, I explained the difference between burglary and robbery.
That's interesting.
So when someone who's watching the show, they get arrested for something, they make sure they get their charges right.
Well, why is it
they
sometimes?
They can tell their lawyer, hey.
Okay, this guy on Old Carriage Road, at Red Oak, this home invasion. Okay, he got no bond. But then you see some murders where it's not,
bonding, I mean, that's a whole nother thing. I mean, bonding.
I wish somebody could come on and explain bond to me.
Well, I can explain it to you
how
really
do you get this amount and this amount and this amount?
Bonding is, so the bond is supposed to be set for 2 reasons: is to make sure that the person shows up in court.
Right.
That's the number one reason. Because when you get arrested, depending on the charge, you can get out of jail before court.
Right.
So the bond is to make sure that you show up in court. Right. And then the second part is to keep the public safe. So on a first degree murder, usually there is no bond on a first degree murder, because you don't want that first degree person accused of first degree murder back on the street, because one, it's unsafe for the public, but then 2, there's a huge flight risk, right?
Sure.
So then a bond is just set up, the magistrate or the judge sets the bond at a certain amount, and then if you're a property owner or if you have a lot of money laying around, you can put that up.
I think we need to have a bail bond.
I think we do too. Most folks can't afford that amount of money, right? So then a bail bondsman will come in and you pay him 10% of whatever the bond is, the bail is. You pay him 10%. You don't get that 10% back. That's his money to keep. Right. And then he assures that you come to court. So that's where bounty hunters and
what if I run?
Well, then he comes and finds you, because that's his.
Me up?
If you don't show up for court, then he owes that other 90% to the court. And they don't, we're talking, if the bond's $1 million and you give him $100,000 and you get out on bond, if you don't show up for court on your designated court date, he owes the court $1 million. So yes, they're gonna They're going
Yeah.
to find you very quickly. They're very
Okay,
good.
that's a lesson.
I mean, they're very good at finding people. So you know,
Right.
if it's a $200 case, they might give you a phone call. But if it's $1 million case, they're coming
Right.
to get you in the middle of the
They're
night.
coming to get you.
And they have a whole lot more freedom than law enforcement does. They don't. There's a lot of things that they don't have to do that law enforcement. A lot of
Right,
rules
sure.
they don't follow.
Yeah.
You know, because they're more or less private. They don't. A lot of search and seizure rules. A lot of stuff they don't follow. They just come and get you. So if you show up for court.
You know, the public, several people have told me how much they learn from this show. You know,
20 years
things
of-
like this, I think, are, you know, interesting.
Well, I mean, I'm no
to the
expert, but I
public.
mean, I've written about this stuff till I can do it in my
Right.
sleep. So I mean, it just over the time. Well, I knew absolutely nothing when I started. I was covering. There's too many parking spaces not enough parking spaces at the beach is what my job was pretty much. And then one day they came in the newsroom and said, "Hey, our crime reporter's leaving. You're the new crime reporter." So, ever since, I've just kind of been learning as I go. I spent a lot of time sitting in the courtroom. I spent a lot of time at crime scenes. I spent a lot of time at shallow graves. Thank God he opened that door. I was running out of stuff that I spent a lot of
Well,
time
no,
doing.
I want to advertise something we're going to do. I told the people this morning we had a surprise. Lindell and I are going to, it's kind of a hot and now case because it's, I guess, in 2 years, whatever. That wouldn't really be hot now, but anyway, the Lynn Kill case, Lindell and I are going to take pictures of the crime scene. We're going to take pictures. We're going to do a lot of things to really show you, starting from the beginning of that case. We're going to go through his life story, Lynn Kill, and because that's coming up for trial, and it may be interesting what happens with that. May not be much of a trial. We don't know. We don't know
Right.
what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, he has the potential to plead guilty.
Yeah, he can plead guilty.
Even if he pleads guilty, he has to stand. He has to
You
sit
still
in the
have to go to
courtroom.
court.
Right. He has to go to the courtroom and have the district attorney read the charges and all that against him. So there will be, whether he pleads guilty or whether he goes to trial, there will be a moment in court for him.
Right. And remember, this is a case where Lynn Kill allegedly, at this point, murdered his wife, and he had a first wife that accidentally died from falling down the steps on some ice, whatever.
Which is being investigated
being
now.
investigated. So it's an interesting local case here that it did have a lot of interest from our people, citizens. So we will be showing you that case from top to bottom, hopefully, and then hopefully it will be about time for it to go to trial.
Yes.
And we'll see what happens. So it may not
Absolutely.
be a trial, we don't know. So anyway, with that being said, Lieutenant Seighman is waiting in the wings, so we'll be right back.
If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
In the market for new or used guns, look no further than Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun. Whether you want to buy, sell, or trade, we got you covered. While you're here, check out our large selection of jewelry. We offer gold, silver, diamond, and beautiful estate jewelry. Looking for electronics? We have almost anything you can think of. We always carry new and used guns, so come here first and shop with a local business you can trust. Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun, serving you for over 25 years. 443-1668, 2552 Sunset Avenue, Rocky Mount.
Okay, Lindell? We're talking about the Jeff Cobb case today, I believe.
know. I am extremely happy to have Lieutenant here. Before we get started all this, I want to say something. We met the other day, and somebody saw us together, and they said, "Hey, is that Tom Seighman?" I said, "Yes, it is." He goes, "When did he start?" And you had just told me you started, I think, in 95.
I did start in 95.
I said he started in 95, and the guy said, "Wow." He said, been one of the best cops Rocky Mount's ever had. Apparently you did a lot of street stuff in the beginning.
I started on patrol.
Yeah, so he said he's been one of the best cops Rocky Mount's ever had. So if he's involved in this thing, it must be on the up and up. So
Appreciate that.
that's a good vote of confidence from somebody who will remain.
We're dating him. He says, hey, don't tell
I do
everybody
a good
how
job of
old
dating
I am.
myself with the
He's actually you are our first repeat guest,
I appreciate that.
reoccurring guest. Yeah, so
Yeah, we're letting him come back, so that means he, pretty much
Must have done
aced it
okay.
last time.
right, absolutely.
Let's talk about the Jeff Cobb case, Lieutenant.
Hoy Jefferson Cobb Jr., 75 years old at the time of his death, was living life, enjoying life. He was an active member of the public, member of the Elks Lodge. I understand from talking with Lindell that he was a former county commissioner. And he was found deceased back in 2014 in November, and in his home on Jeffries Court. And there's a picture of the house there. That the garage was converted into a room, and that's where he had rental properties, and the tenants would come and pay him rent. They could come at any time to pay the rent for the month.
So he had a little office set up
It was
in the
basically like a little
garage.
office setup, yeah. And there's going to be a picture we're going to see shortly of the office area. But he was found deceased. He was stabbed multiple times and succumbed to his wounds inside the residence. And we don't really have a clear motive. We don't know whether it was robbery or whether it was a disgruntled tenant or whether it was any other person with other means or motive to assault him and kill him. So we're looking for the public's information on that and trying to get anything we can. Somebody knows something. Somebody's talked. It's been
Absolutely.
a while now. So. Somebody can help us out with that. There is a reward. I was reminded when I spoke with the family that the reward is $10,000 for this particular crime.
Wow. Plus what we have,
Right, so that's up to $25,000.
$25,000.
That's a lot of money.
And remember, it's anonymous. Nobody will ask you who you are. If you have any information, and Lieutenant, I believe we said no tip is too small.
That's correct.
If you think of anything, any small thing that you say, nah, that wouldn't help, you
That could
would
be
be surprised.
That could be the piece of information that breaks the case.
Yes,
You know,
it absolutely could.
I'm not the kind of guy that sanctifies victims, like, oh, he was the best person
Right.
on earth or whatever. But the thing about Jeff Cobb was that he was into real estate. His whole family's into real estate. They own that whole Cobb's Corner. If you go to Walmart, you've been touched by this man's family.
Correct.
But the people that you mentioned, like he was renting to people and everything like that. The people that he was renting to were a lot of them were in that neighborhood that he lived in himself. He wasn't a slumlord. He wasn't like, he didn't make his living off of renting shacks to other
houses.
right. He did a lot of the rental people that he had were actually more or less his neighbors and people in the neighborhood. So
Right.
I always look at that as like, how it's not really important to me how much money someone has. It's important to me how they got the money. And I mean, Jeff, he was he liked the ladies. Obviously, everybody knows that. It's no secret at this point. But I mean, he was a guy that made he made his money honestly. Like I said, he didn't. There's some folks in this town got a lot of money, but they got the money from off the backs of somebody else.
Well,
And
the
I think-
question is, was it somebody that rented from him? Was it a relationship? We know that he did, just to give you a little bit of information in case it would jog somebody's memory, he did hang around and was a member of the Elks Lodge, stayed there a whole lot, went there a whole lot at night, from what I understand from talking to
Correct.
people. And he also hung around
Gators,
Gators.
a lot
I
of
couldn't
other
think of
places.
the name of the
Yeah.
club. Gators a lot. So if that would jog any memories for anybody. But anyway, if anybody knows anything about this case, please call the hotline number, or they can do text-to-tip. Talk about text-to-tip a little bit, Lieutenant.
Text-to-tip is a service that we have signed up for, and I don't think he has the slide on there. because I
Okay.
don't have the number memorized off the top of my head.
Okay, we'll
I'll
get
y'all to
that and put it up
and,
next time. We'll
So there
make
is,
sure.
but we have text a tip. It's available on our website, and you can text anonymously to the hotline, and all tips are completely anonymous. That data is not even housed in the United States. It's stored in Canada, so even records requests cannot get the data.
Right.
So any information that you give goes to the appropriate section of the agency. So if you have drug information, it goes to the drug investigators. If you have homicide investigation or information, it goes to the homicide investigators, et cetera. So text tips, they get disseminated pretty much instantly, and we can act on the information quickly and try to track down the lead and see what we can do to solve this case. Because I think this case is solvable. Somebody knows something on this case.
Yeah, and if you know anything about this case, it would really help give closure to that family.
So we said that you started in '95, and is R.M.P.D. the only place that you've ever worked?
Started my career in law enforcement here in January of '95.
When did you go to be a detective?
I started in Detective Division in 2002, and in 2007 got promoted back to the patrol line as a sergeant, and then back in Detective Division in 2009, and then back to patrol, and then back to CID. So I've been back and forth between patrol and CID.
I got you. Well, you come, highly regarded by people in the public that I've encountered, and I appreciate you coming on here doing this. The last two cases, the Mercer case that you did last time, and this one, and then we've got some more that we're gonna cover. You're gonna be on you or somebody from the police department, but hopefully you're gonna be on here at least about once a month, right?
Yeah, I think we're looking at doing the third Thursday of the month on a regular basis.
There you go, folks. I
For all
didn't
my
want
fans
to
out
commit
there.
him to that, but the third Thursday of the month, we're gonna have the Rocky Mountain Police Department on here. And what I like about when you're here, you always bring your own photos. There's things that like an inside look at that Mr. Cobb's office. I mean, I've been writing about Mr. Cobb since 2015 and have never had a look inside that office. So, I mean, that's
Yeah, that was something
eye-opening for
different
me.
that we have not had.
Right.
Thank
So
you for that.
So I know that the general public appreciates seeing things that, that they've never seen. I mean, all those pictures on the wall. I mean, this is.
We've never seen that.
A busy man with a lot of family pictures and a lot of stuff going on.
Are they
And so-
family pictures mostly? Is that, nobody knows. Okay, let's just go back over it one time, just in case we want to jog a memory on here, if we can, of somebody, or urge somebody to call. So I want to go back over, okay, Mr. Cobb was shot multiple times.
Stabbed.
I mean, I said shot, I meant stabbed. I don't know why I said shot, I knew that.
4 dozen times.
Yes, multiple times stabbed, which is not, and we've said this many times, not something, the weapon seemed to be something you would grab. It's not a weapon you would normally come there with. It would, to
Potentially,
me,
right.
potentially it would be one you would pick up in the house.
Right.
Okay, he was in the garage.
It was a garage converted over to an office. You can
Yeah.
see in the picture there, the brick steps were the original
converted to
entrance
the
from the
office.
garage
So
into
that
the
was
house.
interesting. But, there was a thing you talked about, the bedroom.
His bedroom light was on.
His bedroom light was on,
There was
things like that.
a
So,
box of open condoms in the
Right.
bedroom. There was a lady's hairbrush.
right.
DNA's been sent off in the case, waiting on that.
That's correct.
Okay.
He was
That's
last
correct.
he was last seen Friday evening.
You heard that? That was correct.
He was last seen Friday evening.
At the Elks Lodge, right?
6, I believe it was, yeah, around 6
so this
o'clock.
man's at Elks Lodge. I worked at Elks Lodge in my hometown when I was a kid, and it was always the same 20 guys.
Oh, yeah.
That, so.
Group of guys that hung
Right.
around,
So, I mean, and good guys too. So he leaves the Elks Lodge, and then nobody sees him for a while. His brother gets to missing him over the weekend. He doesn't show up at church. Fred, you went to his church, right?
Right.
yeah, our
he was
weatherman
always
went to
at
church
church,
with
right?
him.
Yeah, he never missed.
Fred said he never missed church. So when he missed church, that was the big alarm right there. So then they go over. They go over one time with a patrol officer, don't find anything.
Correct.
Then they come back again the next day and with a couple more patrol officers, and then they find him in the garage office.
Right.
Right.
So I mean, this is so I mean, people know people talk. You know, not only does the people involved that did this know about it, but I mean they've talked to their cousins and friends, and they bragged about it to people. You know, I mean
somebody knows the person that did this.
Yes.
Because they have talked to them.
And even if they don't have direct, Lieutenant, I mean, if I'm wrong, tell me. Even if they don't have direct knowledge of this, if they've spoken to someone who does have direct knowledge, they can set you on the path that you
Oh,
need.
yes, definitely. Yeah, if somebody knows somebody that said something or knows somebody that knows something, we can work around that, and we can get to that person, so.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Any information that you can give us, and if you guys would get the text-to-tip
We will
placard up
definitely
there
get
as soon as
that and get it
possible.
back up there. I don't know why it's not up there, because we have used it before. So anyway, thank you for coming this morning. Thank you
Thank
for
you for
bringing
having
that
me back.
case out, and we look forward to see what case we can talk about next month.
I look forward to the calls and the texts.
Yes,
Thank
we're
you,
waiting
sir.
for those. We're waiting for you to call us and say, I did get a phone call about our show, when I was on your show. Nothing would please us more, because that is our goal. It's not about me, it's not about Lindell, it's not about Lieutenant Seighman, it's about finding this person that killed Jeff Cobb, and it's about closure for the family.
Correct.
Okay, we'll be right back.
If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
In the market for new or used guns, look no further than Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun. Whether you want to buy, sell, or trade, we got you covered. While you're here, check out our large selection of jewelry. We offer gold, silver, diamond, and beautiful estate jewelry. Looking for electronics? We have almost anything you can think of. We always carry new and used guns, so come here first and shop with a local business you can trust. Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun, serving you for over 25 years. 443-1668, 2552 Sunset Avenue, Rocky Mount.
Hey, we promised you the Cadaver dog.
Yeah, before we get to that, I just had an interesting conversation with Fred
Yeah,
off
you
the
sure
air
did.
before he did the weather, jack of all trades over there. Fred, you mentioned during the last segment that not only was Jeff Cobb, did he miss church, which you never did, but you said he was, tell me again what you said. Can I hear you? Can I hear him?
Yeah,
Yeah, there was
turn his
a
mic on.
talk, some church issue, I forget what it was about, that Jeff was going to speak on, and he didn't show. And then there was a grandchild's birthday, as I believe I remember, that he was also not present for.
Wow. So
And you know, you don't miss your grandkid's birthday.
right, and apparently he didn't miss church either, so they had to know.
Yeah, there was something wrong.
Yeah, if you miss your grandchild's birthday, there is something amiss normally.
Yeah, and I think that also tells us that he got pulled out of that family.
Yes.
You know, so not only, I mean, he's not the only victim, the
Right.
family's always the victim too. So
Right.
anyway, I just wanted to share that with people. I got contacted by one of the nicest people I've ever met. I mean, honestly, Herb Hartley lives down in Middlesex. He used to live in Sims. He's just one of the nicest people I ever met. He got a dog about a few years ago. He got a dog that he realized was really intelligent. Mm-hmm. So he thought, hey, I can do some sort of service with her. And he settled on Cadaver dog. I think he told me first he was going to try to do like some kind of service dog thing or something, but he decided to do Cadaver dog. And so he went and got trained himself, and then he went and got Lilly certified. And it's a process. I mean, it's not something that you do overnight. It's a lot of hard work goes into
Right.
that. And Herb is retired. He was. He did electronic security for years, installing alarms and stuff like that. I mean, this is not something that this is all voluntary work for him. He volunteers his time to go help law enforcement find people. And, he was, he was just very gracious, and we went down to his house and took some video, and I got that I want to show. He's very concerned about not showing too much of the dog's training. He doesn't want to give that away.
Sure not.
So it's a lot of Herb talking stuff in the background. You'll see his farm animals, I think, and then he messes with Lily some. I mean, I had a good time doing it, so I'm hoping that the folks will enjoy watching it. So this is Herb Hartley and Lily down in Middlesex one day last week. Okay, folks, Lindell here again. This is Herb Hartley. He operates, runs. I don't. What's the proper word? Trains. There you go. He trains Cadaver dog. Lily's behind us back here, and he's going to tell us a little bit about how this works. It's really fascinating. We are, by the way, in Middlesex area right now. So this stuff goes on all around us. Herb's been involved in some interesting things. He's going to explain a little bit about Lily and how he got involved in it. I just thought it was fascinating, and I thought it was something that people would want to know. He's also, by the way, let me throw this out there. He's made himself available to the Team Cold Case. So if it comes up, if law enforcement needs him, he's got himself and a lot of other dog handlers that'll be willing to do what they need, right? So take over, brother. Tell them what's up.
All right, so Lily came to us as a pup. She was about 4 months old as a rescue, and we started training her because she was really something. She had a lot of energy, a lot of energy in that little body. And I knew a friend of mine who was involved in search with dogs, and I went to talk with him, and we got started training her to find human remains. To the dog, it's a game. It's always a game that we use to train them. We try to make it fun for them so that when we need to go to work, it's not work to them. They're out there to have fun and play. And we train them to find human beings. Some are alive. We have trailing and tracking that we do. I don't personally do that with her, but she's trained to find human remains. Her nose is absolutely amazing. There's been a couple of times when I've been training her that I've just gotten chills from watching her. But they have a nose, they live in a world of odor, and that's just one thing that they really enjoy doing. So we exploit that and use that to train them to find the remains of people. I've seen her in our training with ourselves, with different search teams, find human bodies, find just pieces of bone that were left on the ground as a part of our trainings. The sensitivity of a dog's nose is amazing. And for a human being, we have about 5 million scent cells that are in our nose that allow us to smell things. German Shepherds, Labradors, a lot of the dogs that we use have approximately 250 million, someone's eating me here, have about 250 million scent cells in their nose. So what they can smell is way beyond what we can smell. I've heard it described that if you had 2 swimming pools filled with water, and they were Olympic-sized swimming pools, and you put a couple teaspoons of sugar in one of them and then tried to sample it by tasting it, that's how sensitive the dog's nose is to the odor. Come here. This little girl amazes me constantly. She just amazes me constantly on her ability to find things. And such a gorgeous little critter too. We just love her. Most of the folks who have dogs that do this, the dogs are basically family members, just like any other pet. She lives in the house with us. Just part of our family. Goes almost everywhere I go. And aside from, you never know any different just seeing her out in public. But she has been trained to find the odor of human decomposition. And that's what we're hoping to be able to do with the cold case, is to help law enforcement when they come up upon a case where they believe there may be a body, that we can have her as well as some other dogs come out and assist in locating those remains. That's what it's all about. It's finding the lost and bringing them back home. There's a lot of people that are missing, and if we can help in any way, shape, or form, that's what we're going to do with this little girl right here.
You told us, why you thought Lily would be a good fit for this. What made you want to get involved in recovering bodies?
Good question. When I got started in search, it was basically to allow the dog to use her abilities. And the more I got involved in it, the more I learned about it, the more courses I took. I got my SARTEC 2 certification for searching. And I began to realize it's not about the dogs, it's about bringing the people home. When we have lost and missing children and adults, we want to find them and bring them home alive. But the families that have missing family members that have been missing for years or decades, they're still going to bed every night wondering, where in the world is my nephew, my daughter, my son, my husband, my wife? Where are they? And if we can help by finding that person's remains, to close that case, to give them some relief knowing that we did find their loved one.
Absolutely.
That's what it's all about, is bringing that lost person back home.
Okay, very good. This is kind of amazing. Those dogs are so amazing.
Yeah,
They're smarter than we are.
And she was really smart. He was trying to play fetch with her there toward the end, and she didn't want to play, so she just didn't bring the phone back. Just didn't bring the ball back. Got a phone call.
We do.
Let's take it.
From our president of the K-Files.
Excellent.
Good morning.
I just made a cup. You can hear it.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sandra. I just saw Bill on there, and I was going to ask him what's the oldest scent that he's ever had his dogs pick up.
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
I'll have to ask him. He's not in the studio, but I will.
That was a film that we did, video that Lindell went out and took on location. But that's a good question for us to ask him. I'm glad you asked that.
Well, I figured that it had to be a tape because I recognize that Lindell can be quick, but he ain't that fast.
General, you said last week that a lot of times home invasions are someone who's familiar with the home or someone who's been in the home, and then we saw with the arrest yesterday that the man accused of that Red Oak invasion that happened last week while they investigated while we were on the air. It turns out to be his cousin. So, there really is no...
I was sitting there thinking that obviously if someone's missing and you can get a proximity to where something might be, a field or something like that, if you can take some clothes or something that they had worn, that smell stays around for a long time.
Right.
I'm thinking a couple of years, as long as the clothes haven't been washed and their scents have been on there, and that might be a good test to figure out something taken out of a closet, and then and then check it out to see if they could find something underground when they link the pieces up, and obviously make it clean, but obviously something they worn. I think that gives you a chance to see the efficacy of what they.
Right. Did I hang up?
You probably did. Oh, there you
In cold cases, that would be a real challenge. But you could find out through DNA and not DNA, but through scent that hasn't been washed out.
Right.
Or even if it's been washed, how long? So, anyhow, look,
Good points.
great show. And I feel like does Bill live off of 97 or in that area?
Who's he talking about?
Bill, the cadaver.
Oh, Herb? He
His
lives,
name is Herb.
did he say 97?
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. He lives off of like 231 in Middlesex, which is off of 97.
Okay, all right. But because I know I've seen him around somewhere before, you know. But either way, great show. See you guys later.
Thank
and,
you.
Great asset for Team Cold Case.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye. Okay.
All right, yeah. So Herb is one of the many people that have called offering help. Like I said earlier, we got the DNA guy that's got an outfit that expedites DNA
Yes.
sampling, and you know, I've had a lot of just people from the general public who have called or emailed and wanted to get involved in this. So I mean, this is something that is important to a lot of people. You know, go ahead.
No, well, I was just going to say you're exactly right, and those dogs can just and he had a good point. I wonder how old of a
Well, one thing I mean that Herb was explaining to me is that, like, to get certified, what the dog has to go through. So I mean, they put them through. They have like a training course, and they have very identifiable measures for the dog. So they give them a scent from some clothes or whatever, and the dog has to go out and find that. So I mean, these dogs are, I mean, they're highly trained at it. You know, I mean, it's not like a hit and miss, or or maybe they find somebody or something. I mean, you know, when they're in the right area, when because they have to be in the right area. Because I mean, if they go where they think the body might be, but the body's not there. You know, but if they're in the right area, they're going to find that.
what an asset to the sheriff's department, to the police department.
You know, my phone's charging because I'm getting a new phone the next day or two because the one I have is terrible. And one thing I wanted to show people, but I can't because I don't have my phone. But I can at least tell them. Herb introduced me to something that is just really, I wish I'd have had it all these years, and I wasn't aware of it. And that's a book called Lost Persons Behavior. And they took that book that was written several years ago and they turned it into an app on your phone. So
really?
If folks go on your phone and you put that in, Lost Persons Behavior, I think it costs $10 to download, which is expensive for me, but I did that, and it is so great because it's searchable information. So if you got a lost person and you can put in there, whether they're disabled or whether they have some behavioral issues or, whether they have medical issues, you can put in all these different variables.
Right.
And judging by the statistics that these people have looked at for decades and decades of lost and missing people, they can come back and tell you what the likely scenario is. Right. So I mean, it's very interesting if you're just kind of interested in this stuff. It's a fun thing to fool around with. If you're involved in any kind of course, if you're involved in search and rescue, you already know about it because that's one of the main things they use. Right. But folks that are interested in this kind of thing, and especially in like missing people, it's a really, really neat app to have because it can. I mean, I went back and took some of the old cases that I've worked on and fed the information in there and everything, and it came out to be accurate. So I mean, statistically speaking, I mean, there's always an exception to the rule. Right. But statistically speaking, this app can tell you more than likely what is up with someone. Right. So I mean, that'd be interesting. I think I'm going to take that and apply the Carl Butler case to that and see what and see what that thinks about the about Mr. Butler. Right. So
we've talked about a lot of cases on here, and there's a lot of interest. I hear people say, "I watch the reruns." Let's talk about that. The show reruns on Friday night at 7 o'clock. You can watch it again if you happen to miss it, or if you want to watch it again, maybe you're somebody that wants to hear it. Maybe you have talked to someone who, I don't know, who you might think
needs to watch it.
Needs to watch it. Friday night at 7, and now we've added another time, Wednesday night at 10 o'clock.
I thought it was Tuesday night.
Tuesday night, I'm sorry.
Tuesday night
at 10 o'clock.
Right. So we're looking Monday morning, 8 o'clock. I mean, Thursday. Boy, man, we're all man. Thursday morning, 8 o'clock. Friday at 7 p.m.
And Tuesday at
Tuesday at 10. And it's also, I mean, it's live stream at any of those times on WHIG TV. You can watch it.
Yeah,
and then of course
we'll
we put
live
it,
stream anytime it plays again.
we put it on YouTube eventually, so people
Yes.
can watch it there. So
Yes,
I mean,
it'll
there's
be
a
on
lot of
YouTube.
ways to watch the show.
Exactly.
The main thing is that is that word gets out and people realize that they can make a little money off of information that they have.
Yeah, because golly, the Jeff Cobb case, it was already, they're giving $10,000. We're offering up to 15. So
That's
as
up to
Linda said,
$25,000.
that's up to $25,000 if
that's
somebody
a-
would give the tip.
that's a lot
Wow.
of money.
If you know something, why would you not? I mean,
And I guarantee you in that case that there's people that weren't there, that weren't involved, know about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody came back from that situation and said, you know, hey, I just did this or I just did that.
Mm-hmm.
Or over time, people talk about things. I mean, I think we've said this before, but like during the beginning of an investigation, time is really important because every second you lose.
that's right.
That, you know, you lose a chance. But then after a while, the pendulum swings back, and then time becomes important because the more time that you put between a case and now, then the more likelihood that someone's told somebody about it.
Yeah, I don't
So-
think this was somebody that,
This didn't
you know,
happen.
sometimes you just shoot somebody out of a fight that night at a club,
Right.
a one-time thing. This was somebody that did not like Mr. Cobb at
Oh,
all.
yeah.
You do not stab somebody, how many times?
4
40
dozen. 4 dozen.
dozen
Yeah,
times.
so that's
48?
Yeah,
That's
60 something.
60,
yeah.
whatever.
Don't give your math away, Sandra, but it was a lot. It was a terrible situation. And
Yeah.
and they
Somebody did not like him at all.
right. Somebody wanted him dead for sure.
Yes,
Now,
absolutely.
this wasn't a stab a guy and grab his money and go. This was
Right.
They were there to
They
take
did not
Mr.
rob
Cobb.
him, is that correct?
Right. They were there to kill him.
They did not get
Right.
his possessions.
Right. That we know of. I mean, he could have had some cash on him. I don't know, but I
Right.
mean, the house wasn't ransacked. I mean,
Yeah,
they didn't.
nothing like that.
Right.
It was
so
definitely
no,
somebody that did not like Mr. Cobb. So
Right.
anyway, hopefully we'll get to the bottom of that. Somebody will come forward anonymously.
Now, I promised it last week, but we held off because we wanted to make sure and get all the elements in place. And I didn't, I'm really apprehensive about overloading one show and then having,
I know.
So we had Lieutenant Seighman here, we had the video with Mr. Hartley, so I didn't, but starting next week, I taped some interviews with, independent filmmaker who's made a film about the Seven Bridges Road killer. We're gonna talk to him in the interviews. We're gonna show some good segments of his movie, and so
Yeah.
that'll be for the next 2 weeks. And then that's gonna kind of officially launch our
Missing
coverage
women.
of the missing and murdered women in Rocky Mount, because there is a lot more to go with this.
There's a lot of things in that case that the public or myself did not realize.
Right, we're not-
I'm really
we're not
surprised
just-
by some things I found out.
We're not just rehashing old news here, folks. This is a case where there's 12 or 13 or more women that went missing or murdered from this area, and then we've got a guy in jail that authorities think only did 4 or 5 of those.
Which means we
So-
have a killer on the loose.
Or more than one, maybe.
Right.
You're right, but I mean, it does. I mean, that's exactly what it means, Sandy. It means that whoever killed all these women besides Antoine Pittman is still out there somewhere.
Right,
So,
absolutely.
and there have been, not in this exact area, but in areas adjacent, there have been other cases after this. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm. Right.
what's really going on, who was really involved in this, and we have several cases that need to be looked at again, apart from the Seven Bridges Road cases. So that's what we're going to do.
Well, people are really enjoying the program from what I'm hearing, Lindell. So we will keep on with we're going to get into the meat of some of the cases, as we said, with the missing women. We're going to go out to the crime scene and we're going to film that again and
Right.
get some of that and recreate the story. And then also the Lynn kill case. So a lot coming up. Some are more recent than others. Some are way back with the cold cases. So There's so much more to come on this show, so much we haven't even scratched the surface. So we hope you'll continue to watch. Thank you for watching today. Thank you, Lindell,
Yep.
for your hard work. And we will see you next week on the K-File.
If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
In the market for new or used guns, look no further than Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun. Whether you want to buy, sell, or trade, we got you covered. While you're here, check out our large selection of jewelry. We offer gold, silver, diamond, and beautiful estate jewelry. Looking for electronics? We have almost anything you can think of. We always carry new and used guns, so come here first and shop with a local business you can trust. Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun, serving you for over 25 years. 443-1668, 2552 Sunset Avenue, Rocky Mount.